Simmer down. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see everybody. We're going to start right now. So item 1 is appointments, and we're going to have Dr. Lucy Wilson, who is up for appointment as the health officer for Baltimore County. Dr. Wilson, come on up, and there's a chair right here for you, and you can tell us all about yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead, Dr. Wilson.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you, council members, for the opportunity to speak with you today, and for those of you who are able to meet with me the last couple of weeks. So to introduce myself further, I'm a physician trained in public health and infectious diseases with over 20 years of practical experience at the state, the local, and national level. I'm also a proud resident of Baltimore County. I've lived here for the past 25 years. I've worked here, I've lived here, I've raised my kids here in the Baltimore County public school system, so it's my home. My work experience over the past 20 years has brought me growth in public health leadership, public health operations, community health, and infectious disease expertise in outbreaks and pandemics and emergency response. So I settled in Baltimore County after completing my master's degree in public health and my medical school training to do additional training at Johns Hopkins. And I began my career there with a focus on community health as the medical director of the Johns Hopkins AIDS County program. And this was a program that was an interdisciplinary team that traveled throughout the state, a mobile team of care providers and clinicians who saw patients in HIV clinics in all the local health departments in Maryland. And so we collaborated with local health department staff and provided wraparound care services for our patients. And that's when I first learned about the dedication and expertise at local health. So from there, I honed my public health leadership and public health operations skills at the Maryland Department of Health. I worked there for 10 years as the chief of the Center for Infectious Disease Surveillance, Infection Control, and Outbreak Response. So my team there oversaw infectious disease situations ranging from foodborne outbreaks in restaurants, infections in nursing homes, hospital readiness for Ebola response, Zika virus testing, H1N1, you name it. And we partnered all that time with our local health colleagues. For the past 6 years, I've been a professor at UMBC, or University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and I've been in the Department of Emergency and Disaster Health Systems. At UMBC, I'm involved in the training of EMTs and paramedics and emergency managers, and many of those have gone on to work in local jurisdictions here in Maryland. During the COVID-19 response, I served as an advisor to the University System of Maryland and to the National Governors Association. And recently, in response to the opioid crisis, I joined a multidisciplinary team to develop a comprehensive community-based opioid overdose response for Baltimore City. And finally, in 2023, I was detailed by newly elected Governor Moore and Health Secretary Herrera Scott to join Maryland Department of Health as a medical advisor for the demobilization of the COVID-19 response. And my job there was to help with the normalization of the response, that is to fold the services back into general operations in healthcare and public health and in social services. And I would say throughout all these activities, I've really learned from and developed respect for my Baltimore County colleagues. Baltimore County Department of Health is consistently recognized by the state as a high-quality organization, and I really hope to continue to support its mission as the Director of Health and Human Services. I'm eager to work in the county to tackle health needs like chronic diseases, mental health, and substance use, to address health disparities like infant mortality and improve access to care and services. Overall, I aim to improve the health and quality of life of Baltimore County residents. So thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today and answer any additional questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wilson. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Dr. Wilson? Councilman Catch.
Oh, there you go. Thank you very much for coming today. One of the things, and this is just related to a small part of your job. I've always been concerned about individuals who are incarcerated and then released, and how important it is that whatever medical regimen that they have, that's continued upon release. And it's been a problem in the past. When I was in the legislature, we did a lot of work in this area, especially with AIDS and hepatitis C and things like that. In prison, they would start these treatments, and then when they're released, they would end because there was no continuum of the treatment. If you could just comment on that, because if we expect people being released from incarceration to be successful, they're going to need this assistance. Many of them, are depressed or whatever. And so if you could comment on that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. I think that's an extremely important issue. My experience with that is by working with the HIV population, and in this county program that I talked about, we actually worked with Department of Corrections to try to help with that continuity of care. And at that time, which was a while ago, my understanding was that the counties had connections and liaisons with corrections to try to engage and then continue the continuity of care. Now, I think that there's also identified an increased risk of overdose in people leaving corrections. And so there is a renewed interest in making sure that kind of connection and liaison is there as well. So I 100% agree with you. It's a really important issue.
Thank you, Councilman Katch. Councilman Crandall?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Wilson, thank you so much for spending some time with me this afternoon. I enjoyed our conversation. I appreciate your willingness to consider some of the suggestions. I know we had kind of a wide-ranging conversation, from everything from bioterrorism to fentanyl to homelessness to our animal shelter, and that came with the realization to me that the agency is a wide-ranging agency, which is maybe why our conversation was so wide-ranging. But I did find you extremely well qualified and well versed in these issues, and it was clear to me, both in our conversation and your resume, that public health is a passion of yours and a lifelong pursuit. And as I told you, I believe that you'd be a real asset to Baltimore County. So congratulations on your nomination. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. Any other members have any questions, comments, or thoughts? Councilman Jones?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for stepping up and willing to do this job. There's no question about it that, the health department, I've been here for 10 years, and I've seen all sorts of work done from the health department, from juvenile smoking cessation programs to programs for mothers, expecting mothers, and all sorts of things. But obviously, I think it's clear to anyone who's been paying attention, nothing compares to what we went through with the COVID-19. And it really put us on the forefront, and all of a sudden, all the spotlights around Baltimore County was all focused on the health officer. Mm-hmm. And we turned to the health officer for direction and guidance through a very difficult time for us as well as everybody else in the country. So it looks like to me that you have the background that will serve you well in that capacity. And my only words are, number one, good luck. And number two, please be vigilant. When the time comes, be prepared, because we would hope that there would never be another pandemic, but we know that's not the case. We just don't know whether it's going to be next week or next decade. So be well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any additional questions, comments? Just add a few thoughts. One is Dr. Wilson. We didn't know each other then, but we were both we were in the Emergency Operations Center for what we thought was going to be a pandemic called the H1N1. Does anyone remember the H1N1 virus? So luckily, we were fortunate that we were prepared. We were over-prepared, and certainly it's good to be over-prepared. So I didn't know you then, but I know you were nearby because we were in that, wasn't a big emergency operations center, but it served the purpose. And then I wanted to thank you for doing something that is a little unheralded. We all think about the mobilization efforts for COVID-19, but then as we were able to manage COVID in a better way, then there was the demobilization. And so it sounds like Governor Moore tapped you to scale down those efforts into a more routine function. So no one really thinks about kind of the demobilization when we ramp up all of our services. It's kind of like being an offensive lineman. Your name only gets called if you do something wrong. So it's something that doesn't get noticed if you do it right. So thank you, and look forward to your nomination.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Okay, next we have another appointment, and we have someone who is familiar to all of us, Lauren Buckler. Order.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Lauren Buckler, and I want to make sure I really state for the record, just for Tony, the best deputy. I couldn't do this job without Tony's support, and he loves that I say for the record every time I come up here. It was drilled into me at the state. When you testify before Board of Public Works, they make you say that, and if you don't say it, they ask you for the record to state your name. Some information about me. I know a lot of you already know this, but I am a licensed engineer in the state of Maryland. Prior to joining Baltimore County, I held several leadership positions within the State Department of General Services. This was responsibilities for design, construction, and energy for state parks, judicial system, the Annapolis campus, corrections, state military site, state hospital campuses. This also included during COVID setting up temporary hospitals at private hospitals for additional care, and setting up temporary hospitals within corrections to be able to separate that population during COVID. Since joining Baltimore County as Deputy Director in June of 2021, I've worked with all of your teams on numerous issues. Some of the things that I've gotten to do that are really big and really exciting with the support of CIO Walker and County Executive Olszewski have been things like the new green infrastructure section. That was a dream. It's a reality. We got it off the ground, we got it funded, we got it staffed, and projects are already done, installed, complete, and helping flooding in neighborhoods, and that was all within 3 years, which was exciting. That stemmed out of hearing from the community that there's nuisance flooding issues and we needed to find another way to solve it. Some of the other big exciting things have been the appointment to the Baltimore Regional Water Governance Task Force, being able to work through the challenges with the city, with our state partners, on what other options are out there for our shared water and sewer system. Since the health department was just up here, Della's been a great partner. We started a regular coordination on grease issues. We had some notorious problem areas with grease in our sewer systems that were causing backflows into businesses, but we were able to partner with the health department and work on their restaurant inspection side with our exterior backup side, and be able to look for some of these problems and stop some of these major problem areas by coordinating this data and coordinating our workforces. There's also a million little things that I've gotten to do in the last couple years, and some of those are the most rewarding at the end of the day because you can see the change immediately. Things like we've heard from frontline staff since I got here, issues with the uniforms, which sound really minor, but when they're out in the field and they have to wear these uniforms and there's quality control issues and the seams are in the wrong places and it's taking 6 months to 12 months for them to get their uniforms, being able to get a new contract in place and work with purchasing to document the issues with the current vendor is a huge win for those staff. I really like to make it a priority to hear what issues are affecting our frontline staff and be able to try to move things out of the way. If it's something that little or something they don't understand a process or a procedure, how do we help make it simpler so they can get their work done at the end of the day? We're on round 3. We've done it about once a year of listening sessions where we've gone out to our field staff at the field sites to be able to hear from them. What do they need? What's in the way? What do they not know? And be able to give them information about all the areas of DPWT. Because if they're just on highways crew doing snow and potholes, they don't know about all this other great stuff that we're doing within the department. So making sure they know that there's big things out there to help them do their jobs. On a personal level, I'm honored to serve Baltimore County. I'm from Baltimore County. I still reside in Baltimore County. My kids go to school in Baltimore County. I'm really excited that BCPS has included solid waste in the 2nd grade curriculum this year. That note came home from the teacher, and I was the first email back on how can I come in and talk about solid waste. So I visited Kingsville Elementary School 2 or 3 weeks ago, talked to the whole 2nd grade about solid waste. They had great questions. They didn't realize there's closed landfills, because why would you realize that as a 2nd grader? Maybe you've been to the dump, but you don't realize the lifespan here and where all this stuff has gone over time. They had really great questions. It's really exciting to be able to share that level of knowledge with anybody, especially kids, that can hopefully one day help change this picture. Even though I'm familiar with Baltimore County, I learn something new every day in this job. There's always some new challenge and also some new opportunity to solve that challenge. I really look forward to moving forward in this position and being able to use that knowledge and solve some of these problems. I really want to thank you to my team that's here tonight and the team that's supporting virtually. I couldn't do any of these things without this great team at DPWT. I'm happy to take any questions you have at this time.
Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts for Ms. Buckler?
Yes.
Councilman Katz.
Hello.
Hi.
I want to thank you for the job you've done so far as acting, is that the title?
That's correct.
Acting director. I appreciate all that you've done in my district, in the 3rd district. There's been many problems, and you've approached them in a way that my constituents appreciate. I do want to ask you about, do you have many vacancies in Public Works?
Unfortunately, we do.
Okay.
We are down in a good way. We were at about 20% 6 months ago. We're down to 15%. We started our own HR section, working with OHR, working with the administration. We have somebody dedicated to recruiting now. That's made a huge difference. We're targeting the right areas, the right networks to be able to fill these vacancies that we have. So we are making progress. To drop down 5% in 6 months is pretty good when we're a department of 1,000 positions.
I think that's very impressive. Where do you go to try to recruit people? Schools? Do you go to schools or?
We go to schools. We've had success going to workforce centers, looking for staff, particularly for our CDL positions, our labor positions, our field staff. We've also dropped a number of positions down to be able to bring people in at like a labor trainee, so you don't have to come in with a CDL, and then we can train you up once you get here. We have the ability to do CDL training at our training facility out in Phoenix.
No, I don't think you're going to attract many people, though, with the uniforms. You're thinking of purchasing the big orange ones?
Some of them are orange, yes.
Okay. You know what orange is?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, and you'll definitely have my support.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Katz. Councilman Ertel, then Councilman Marks.
Councilman Marks can go first.
Okay, we'll go to the senior councilman, Councilman Marks.
He is the senior counsel.
He's older than I am.
Thank you, Ms. Buckler. I'm sure those students at Kingsville Elementary gave you some very intelligent questions, right?
They did.
It's a fine elementary
The
school
ones who live in my district, yes.
from both districts 3 and 5.
Of mine.
Yes. Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet with you recently. I think you know the projects that are particularly important to me. A couple questions. First, you mentioned the Regional Water Authority. The County Council in 2019 unanimously passed a resolution supporting a Regional Water Authority. And I know that was not the recommendation of the task force, but are we seeing any movement at the state level toward addressing any of the recommendations?
So the task force had a lot to look at in a very short time. At the end of the day, they recommended change, but they recommended that 3 different threshold issues be studied further. So there was legislation issued last session for a different group to sit down and look at those 3 issues. One of them being financing. If you with what interest rates are right now, if you took all the debt the city had and all the debt the county had related to the water and the sewer system and refinanced it, it wouldn't be very palatable. So looking at options as to how you would move forward with some type of alternative governance and what you would do with that financing arrangement. One of the other issues was staffing and pensions, looking at how that would look long-term if you went with an alternative system. And then the other issue being equity, that was a threshold issue. Looking at who has paid what over time into the system, and then what that payment structure looks like as you move to a different type of organization. Baltimore County at this point pays 60% of everything at Patapsco and 50% of everything at Back River, and that's not as of this year. That's fairly historical as the population has grown. Baltimore County's contribution has grown. So I think doing that analysis is very important for both sides to go in transparently and see what everybody's really paid. There's perceptions about who's paid what, but the reality is it's been based on a population formula for years. And Baltimore County's population has gone up exponentially and supported the growth and the maintenance at both of these facilities with that population growth. So looking at those threshold issues is important. The legislation mandated there be this other group to look at these. It also requested additional legal assistance. So we were using a third party and not relying on legal advice from one jurisdiction or the other that would come out skewed to that jurisdiction. So it is moving forward into next steps, and I'm optimistic that there's a better future for how this looks.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, the third peer review of the traffic calming program. That's still on pace to be finished this year, correct?
That's correct. We should
Okay.
have it in the near future.
And how will those recommendations be implemented? Will it be regulatory, or will we be asked to make changes?
I would have to go back and check with how the current manual is, if that was something that came through, what that approval process was that it came through.
Okay.
But I will get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you. Third, Baltimore County Public Schools. We've had situations that I know you're very aware of twice now where schools have opened where the sidewalks are simply non-existent. And Rossville Elementary School, Nottingham Middle School. And had we planned for these sidewalks years ago, they might have been in place when the schools open. It's going to take forever to build these sidewalks now because we have to get approval from the property owners, we have to get funding, et cetera. So I would hope that we would be aiming for better coordination with the school system as these projects move forward. I don't think that's an absolute criticism of us. I think it's just working together to address these issues. So that's just a statement. The fourth question I had is just a general statement and a question. It takes forever to get projects built in this county. I'm just going to be blunt. This is what my constituents say. We talked about traffic circles that take 4 to 5 years, traffic signals that finally meet the warrants, and we have to wait for the funding to be building those. Road resurfacing projects where we're waiting for the ADA ramps to be put on, sidewalks, and then to build. Any thoughts on how we can do a better job of just expediting projects?
I think some of these projects are always going to take time, especially if it involves any kind of private property, and we have to get through that because we have to go through the process on that. Projects that don't require that, we can find tools in the toolbox to expedite them. We have done a couple things differently recently. We had a project where we didn't do it as a design build, but we did the design and the construction contract at the same time. So they coordinated so we could start ordering materials that had long lead times before the design was completely finished. Historically, DPWT has amazing staff that have been with DPWT a lot of times since the start of their career. So they've only seen it done one way. We're seeing a turnover in ideas just because we're having natural retirement at this point. And we're seeing a lot of newer staff come in. We've also dropped down some of our engineering positions to be engineer 1 entry level. We've hired a couple new grads. It's bringing new ideas in. It's bringing the thought process to look and see what else is out there and what else can we do. I'll also say I'm bringing those ideas in. I've worked for multiple private companies. I've worked in different capacities at the state level. I've worked on all different kinds of contracts and different ways to process things and align things. Some things are going to take time, but there are some things that we can do in parallel or try to do a little bit differently to move it forward faster.
So concurrent processes versus sequential processes?
Yes, depending on what it is. Again, like if it's going to involve us taking private property, that's got to go through its process and its timeline. But if it doesn't involve that, there's other ways that we can do things in parallel instead of sequentially.
Yeah. You mentioned your state experience. That's something that you and I have in common. We both served in state government. Councilman Patoka served in state government. I know the CTP tour is coming up, and I would encourage you all to do whatever you can to advance the eastbound connection from Philadelphia Road to Maryland 43. I know it's on the priority list, but that is something that is very important to the communities. Lastly, I want to thank you. You've been extremely responsible to me. I see people in the back who've been very responsive to me. Tony Russell, right, Matt Leone. I mean, there's a lot of people there back there just are always answering my emails, and you're one of those, and I want to thank you for always getting back to me.
Thank you, sir.
Any additional comments or questions? Ms. Buckler, I just have, Councilman Jones. Oh. Councilman Ertel, I forgot about you. No, you go right ahead.
I just had a quick comment. So, Ms. Buckler, I just wanted to say, and for those here who are from the public, as a newer council person and someone who's come from private industry, I've always appreciated your leadership, whether now it's going to be director soon, but as deputy, I feel like you have always been super responsive. We've gotten a lot of things done. You, as you were talking, you're dealing with new ideas and older ways that the county has done business for a long time and kind of blending them together. And I feel like DPWT is really, I don't know how it was before you were there, but I feel like we do a really good job. We get things done quick. I've had constituents who, I remember just a quick, I was at a community meeting one night. Somebody was talking about potholes, and I think I reached out to Tony, and the trucks were literally on the court the next morning, and the woman called basically crying that she couldn't believe that we were on it that quick. And it's really fun to be part of that as an elected official, to be able to get that responsiveness from our departments, especially in, public works where often that is the face of what people see, a pothole, trash getting picked up, all the things that people expect to run smoothly, and sometimes they don't and can't because of an issue. But you've done a great job with it, and I know you're going to be a great director.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilman Ertel. Councilman Crandall?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Buckler, I can be very shy about voicing my opinions. I'll say this on the Regional Water Authority. Baltimore City delegation hijacked that whole process, and you can't say it, but I can say it. And that is kind of where we are, why we are where we are right now. The resolution that this council passed did not ask for the Baltimore City delegation to basically take over that task force and get the results that they kind of programmed into it. So I'll leave it. You don't have to agree with me, but it's kind of the way it is. So I do want to concur with my colleagues. I've been a council member for almost 10 years, and we have enjoyed, my office and I have enjoyed a positive relationship with DPWT. And the attitude that we get from, as Councilman Marks mentioned, some of the individuals in this room is, if we can help or if we can fix something, we will. If we can do something about it, we'll do it as fast and as quickly as we can. And if we can't do it as quickly, or it's not our responsibility and we can't do something about it, then we'll actually explain why, instead of just sort of ignoring the problem. So I think it's a solution-based agency, and as my colleagues have mentioned, you've been a part of that. There's some issues with CTP coming up. Over the summer, when you mentioned to me one day that the toll plaza or the toll for truckers at Broning Highway, because of the bridge collapse, they're allowing trucks to use the turnaround, the whole issue. You kind of made my day, and I know you've been an advocate for that, and I'm hoping that we can work together to make that, as the bridge is rebuilt, that we can make that a permanent thing. So trucks that aren't using the bridge don't have to pay a toll, so they can go straight from the Port of Baltimore to Trade Point Atlantic without having to go through the community. And I know that you were, you're more than aware of the pressure that our community has on trucks and roads. So with that, look forward to voting for you on Monday. I think you head up a can-do type of agency. I will ask, I was hoping that Councilman Ertel wouldn't make me do it, but he was afraid to ask you, I guess. I don't know, or he forgot. Can you meet with Councilman Ertel and I? It doesn't have to be before Monday, but we have some questions on the road resurfacing program, given the new technology that was implemented, and how choices have been made this last season on what roads get done. And when I mentioned the other day when you were sitting in the back that we need to talk about heat maps, did you know what I was talking about?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So if you would, our offices will coordinate with you to get together with you, and hopefully we can have that discussion.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. Any additional? Councilman Jones?
Yes, Ms. Buckler. Thank you for all your service to Baltimore County. And you are absolutely right. You have a wonderful staff, especially a great deputy, one that we could all be proud of. And thank you for your responsiveness to me and my constituents. And wish you well. We're here to help in any way we can. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Notice I didn't ask for anything. Make a note.
I did notice that.
Thank you, Ms. Buckner. Appreciate you coming here. I have some questions, but I'm going to hold them until we talk about the supplemental appropriation.
Okay.
And we should try to keep this moving because we're 40 minutes into the meeting and we're only through 2 items. So let's try to keep. Thank you, Ms. Buckner. And while we're, thank you.
Thank you.
let me just, I was remiss, and I don't know if this will change anyone's, the way they're thinking about their vote, but just wanted to point out that Dr. Wilson is a resident of the beautiful second district, so,
But she's moving to the 3rd.
okay. Don't listen to that, Dr. Wilson. Okay.
Mr. Chair, we should also be excited that we are going to have a director who is excited that second graders are excited about solid waste.
Absolutely. Here, here.
I'm against trash and waste.
Okay. Our next item is Councilman Jones, Planning Board, Reisterstown Streetscape.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Resolution 44-24. As a follow-up to my earlier resolution, 22-24, that first looked at the Reisterstown streetscape plans, this resolution asks the Planning Board to take up the Reisterstown Streetscape Action Plan and recommend its adoption as an amendment to the Master Plan 2030, as well as the Reisterstown Streetscape Design Guidelines for incorporation into the Comprehensive Manual of Development Policies. I humbly ask my colleagues for their support for this resolution.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Jones. Are there any questions, comments, or thoughts? Just want to share with you, Councilman Jones, that as you know, and lucky to have constituents like the Reisterstown community, because they are all about action. When they think of something, they move on it.
Yep. They do.
And Councilman Catch, if you didn't hear Councilman Catch, he said that the residents of Reisterstown miss him. That's what he said. Okay. Just so that's on the record. Okay, next item, and this is an item which I've learned a lot of new acronyms like FERC, like MPRP, like PJM. So this is the opposition to the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project. I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Catch.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is very important. It expresses Baltimore County Council's and Baltimore County's opposition to the Piedmont Reliability Project. Before I get into the project, I just want to go over a few things. First of all, there's 3 organizations involved in this particular program. The first one is the PJM Regional Transmission Organization. Their responsibility is there's 13 states within that organization, of which Maryland and our surrounding states are part of it. And the responsibility of PJM is to offer energy at wholesale prices, and it goes into a bid process. And one of the things that they're responsible for is to make sure that enough energy is available in the 13 states. What we're talking about today is a project which is, it's called the Piedmont Regional Project. And the purpose of it is to provide energy for Maryland and Virginia. And that's simply because the state of Maryland itself has to import 40% of the energy that we use. And Virginia's not far behind as well. They do not produce the energy that they need either. Maryland even has a program or a law which shuts down fossil fuel energy plants. So, we're going to need more and more energy from Pennsylvania. That's where it's coming from. Personally, I would like to see the proposals to expand Calvert Cliffs to become a reality. But this has been these proposals have been around for years, and they're not happening, unfortunately. I look at France. One of the problems that I have with nuclear energy is the waste, the nuclear waste that is buried around in Nevada, I think. But anyhow, the French have a process where they reuse the wasted fuel. So there is no waste. So I just wish as a country that we would adopt those kinds of nuclear reactors so that we can produce energy, clean energy, and have no waste. The PJM has proposed a routes through the state of Maryland to distribute more energy in the state of Maryland. Chris, can you put up the first map? Okay, if you look at this map, you'll see that we're talking about one line, but actually under phase 3 of the PJM plan, there's numerous new lines that are proposed. 2 more of them go through Baltimore County. And so this issue, and it hits every councilmatic district with the exception of District 1. If you'd like it, I'll try it. But anyhow, so we're only talking about the one line, and it's, even I can't see it from here. I think it's the green. Is it the green line? Yeah, I think it's the green line.
Yes.
We're talking about. I can't see that far. And this is the first phase of, it's called phase 3. And so I just want everybody to realize again, we are talking about numerous lines. We're not talking about one line. We're only talking about one line today, but there are many that are coming in the future. Now, what's happening with the one line that we're talking about, if you could go to the next map. If you take a look to the left, you'll see various routes that have been suggested for this single line. And by the end of this week or early next week, the decision will be made as to which of these routes will be connected to complete this line. And let me just tell you that most of it is in Carroll County and Frederick County, but we do have some in northern Baltimore County around the Pretty Boy Dam area. And the area around the Pretty Boy Dam area affects 125 residences in northern Baltimore County, 125. And I hope somebody's here today to talk about all those people were polled, and 2/3 of them, I'm sorry, 1/3 of them answered the poll, and I have the results, and hopefully someone will discuss those results. But those lines go through land that has been preserved by Baltimore County and the state of Maryland, Frederick County, Carroll County. And hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent preserving land for farming. And for, northern Baltimore County provides 60% of the water that is consumed in the Baltimore metropolitan area. And the areas, the forested areas, help keep our water clean, the water that goes into the streams which feed our reservoirs. So we have a problem here, especially when I show you the next map, which is going to show you what other lines are going to be going through Baltimore County. But just to look at this map, Pretty Boy Reservoir provides water for the Baltimore metropolitan area. And these lines that they're considering, they're above and below Pretty Boy, go through preserved land. And, you know, going through preserved land is going to hurt our efforts to preserve agricultural land and will take away the potential to produce food for this area in the future. I mean, we all know that it's possible that we may have difficulty 5 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever, feeding this area, you know, getting food from California, whatever. And we're going to really need northern Baltimore County, which is an excellent source of food, et cetera. Plus, northern Baltimore County has some of the largest areas of prime and productive soil. And it's soil that is a lot of conditions in place to produce prime and productive soil. And you just, you know, if you think that you can, you know, put a building on it and just move it somewhere, you can't. If you move it, it won't be prime and productive anymore. So anyhow, this decision is going to be made. The Maryland Public Service Commission will decide whether or not the route that's proposed is, whether they support it or not. But the thing that concerns me is that the Public Service Commission is going to be asked to give the company that's constructing these lines, it's called Public Service. It's like, it's a company like Exelon. Public Service, the right to condemn property. Condemn property. And, you know, I have a real problem with that. I don't understand why we can't utilize existing right-of-ways in Baltimore County, Carroll County, and Frederick County. Why can't we do that? And I think I know the answer. The answer is profit. I mean, that's really the answer. But, you know, we need, so therefore, the resolution expresses opposition to the Piedmont Reliability Project, but it asks for two things. First of all, that the state of Maryland, that has the policy of closing fossil fuel energy producers, that the state of Maryland develop a plan, a unified plan of bringing power energy through our state. And, you know, I'm hoping that such a plan will not have us going through preserved land or cutting people's farms in half, et cetera. The second thing that it does is the resolution asks Baltimore County to do an environmental impact study of what these new lines will do to the environment in our county. Remember that we have invested hundreds of millions of dollars to preserve this land. Could you go to the next map, please? I don't think that's it. Go to another map. Wait a minute.
Go back one.
Back one. Yeah, that's it. Okay, now. The light green lines on either side of Baltimore County are the lines that are part of Phase 3. And as I said, they will go through every councilmatic district except for District 1. And so when you look to the left at the line we're talking about now with all the different options, the same thing is going to happen in Baltimore County with the light green lines. You'll have all these options. All I can tell you is that this is going to be very upsetting. And to talk about creating new rights of way is just not the right way to go. So, this is only the beginning. This is not, we're not only talking about this one line, this is only the beginning. And I'm sure it's going to be years out that this issue is going to be continuously in front of us, which is why we need the state to have a coordinated plan and why we need the county to do an environmental impact statement. So I ask the council to approve this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Catch. Councilman Crandall?
Thank you, Councilman Catch, and thank you for setting me straight when the resolution was introduced a week ago. I did look into this and to sort of edify myself because I was confusing a BGE project that I was well aware of with this particular one, and you did set me straight on that. So do you know, so some of the land that we're talking about that would be condemned or taken in eminent domain, basically, right? Some of it is public land, like through Pretty Boy or whatever. Some of it is private land owned by farmers or landowners or whatever. Is this a taking, or is there compensation that has been talked about? And I'm not sold on like people having to being forced to sell their property, but has there been a monetary compensation discussed for people that have to give up private land for this particular project?
I mean, it's a little premature for that. They have to determine the route first, and they'll go then to the property owners, and they'll assess the property and offer a certain amount of money for this property. And if the property owner doesn't agree, and if they get the condemnation power, then it'll be condemned, and whatever the court decides is a fair price, they'll get the fair price. But I do want to mention something that you talked about last week, and that is the proposed BGE lines. It would be great if the line that is proposed by Public Service would use the BGE lines, the rights.
I understand. I understand.
To me, that makes sense. Why?
Ultimately, Councilman, who gives the authority for condemnation?
That would come from the Maryland Public Service Commission.
Not the General Assembly.
The General Assembly created the Maryland Public
Right.
Service Commission around 1912. I wasn't there then.
Well, we can debate that later.
Well, okay. So therefore, the Maryland legislature certainly has since they created them, they certainly have the power to do something about it.
Right.
The Public Service Commission was created because I guess the legislature didn't feel that they had the knowledge to make these kinds of decisions. So I think they would probably be reluctant to do that. But, I would hope they would put pressure on the Public Service Commission to do the right thing.
But the PSC has the authority to grant PSEG condemnation authority.
Correct.
Right now, unless the General Assembly acts and changes that.
Yeah. I mean, and they do have that authority, and yes.
Well, I mean, I'm with you, Councilman. I just don't, I can't fathom someone who owns a piece of property in Baltimore County, Carroll County, or Frederick County being forced to take compensation or just being forced to give up part of their land. What, that just seems un-American to me. I mean, I know it's happened. Well, that's a first. But it just, you know, and you were around for 509. This harkens back to 509 and how upset the east side and the waterfront communities got on the east side. And there are still politicians paying the price. Well, most of them actually aren't around anymore, but they paid the price.
One of them's retiring.
Correct.
And I was one, I think there were 3 of us voted no on 509. And
Does it not seem similar to you?
very much so, especially when there are rights of way that are in existence today that they can utilize. That's the part that really gets me.
Mr. Secretary, can you add me as a sponsor to the resolution?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Councilman Young.
apologize. I do have to step out, but not for anything related to this bill. Also, if Ms. Secretary, you wouldn't mind adding me as a co-sponsor.
Yes, sir.
Didn't realize the timing would be right now, but also knowing that my district is the only one not in, I wanted to make sure that my position was clear before stepping out. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Pass.
Councilman Jones?
Yes, first of all, I want to thank all the citizens who have been vehemently opposed to this and have done an excellent job of bringing it to our attention. And I wish there was more that we could do. Unfortunately, it appears that, and I feel bad about PJM not being here, right? Not being here, sitting here answering questions, because and I want to thank you, Councilman Cash, for becoming like an expert, really diving deep into this issue. You've educated myself and answered all the questions I had. So what happens if these lines are not built? Is it a question of we need the lines and it's just a matter of where we put them?
I think that, okay, first of all, Maryland and Virginia were closing down plants that produce electricity, okay? Because they're fossil fueled, many of them. So what I think we need to do is we need a new strategy to approach this problem in a way that it's going to be not going to affect people and families the way that this particular proposal is affecting homeowners in northern Baltimore, in the state of Maryland. And again, I come back to existing rights of way. Why aren't we using, it's an H figure power, the thing that's going to hold the power lines. So, let's do that. I would like to see us build more nuclear power plants in the state of Maryland. And I would like us as a county, as a state, to promote solar energy, put it on the top of buildings, parking lots, etc. I do not, he said it, I don't want them on farms. Don't want them on farms. But because, we can't afford really to give up our prime and productive soil. So I believe, there's nothing, I don't believe there's any problem we can't solve. I really believe that. And I think that the state of Maryland, state of Virginia can solve this problem and come up with a solution that everyone is going to be able to support. Some may not be as happy as others, But, we don't want rolling blackouts either. But this plan is faulty. It's faulty and should not be approved.
Well, I was thinking back to when I was looking to buy a lot to build my family's home on. And I remember seeing a piece of property, and I came through there at night, and I had my little flashlight, and I said, man, this is perfect. This is a beautiful piece of property. This is great. I think I'm going to move on that. So, of course, I came back the next day, and there were those power lines. And the first thing came to my mind was low-level radiation. And I thought, no thanks. And the owner of the property had documents from BGE saying, no, it's not a health effect, it's okay. And I just thought, nah, no thank you. So I can't help but wonder when you put a value on somebody's property, I don't know how you measure that, because I think back to my experience, I wasn't going to buy a lot with those power lines running through it. Just because of, in my mind, and maybe I don't, I'm not an expert, but in my mind, there's low-level radiation running through there, and I think it will have some health effects. And I went on a cleanup recently, and I had an aluminum pole, and we were cleaning up in Randallstown and underneath the power lines. And I stuck that pole on the ground and just rubbed my finger across it. It was bzzz. It was like something you feel at a carnival where you just rub your finger across there. I'm thinking, wow. So anyway, I appreciate your work, and I certainly understand the fears and concerns of everyone who have expressed them. And I guess feel the best we can do is this resolution, because PJM, the Public Service Commission, I don't know how much outreach they have done, but it's almost like you don't have a choice in the matter. So I gladly sign on Mr. Boswick as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. And let me just tell you that I'm sure all of us know people whose homes are right next to these power lines, and it's not all hunky-dory, that's all I'll say.
Any additional questions for Councilman Ketch? Councilman Ketch, I do want to just make a couple of comments. One is, I think we should make it clear that Baltimore County is not a direct recipient of the energy benefits through this. It's more, we're just a vessel for this energy to transmit through. We're a highway, a throughway from Norrisville to Frederick. And so really, there's certainly, if you look at the entire grid, perhaps we're an indirect beneficiary, but we're just a highway. We're being used by the energy, by PJM. And you're right, Councilman Jones, they're not here. Where are they? In Pennsylvania, Virginia, but they're not here in Maryland right now. So I do, that really concerns me that we're just being used. We're being used. And Councilman Crandall, to your question about a regulatory taking. So regulatory taking is when, it's not if it reduces the land value, but if it's reduces it to zero. If it reduces to zero, yes, it's a regulatory taking. If it just reduces it, it's not. And then I just want to impress Mr. Phillips, Mr. Benjamin, and Mr. Boswick. The landmark case related to this was Nolan versus the California Coastal Commission. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if
Yes.
I might say that every time that I've asked public service whether or not Maryland is going to benefit from these lines and this power, I kind of get not a direct answer at all. So, and by the way, it's 500,000 volts of power that proposed to go through the state of Maryland. So I thank you all very much.
Okay, we have lots of speakers that are energized. Oh, that's a bad word to use. That was, that was not intentional. It just came out that way. So Ms. Belcastro, first speaker, please.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Our first speaker is Glenn Schultz, who is here in person.
I think I got it. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Glenn Schulz. I live in Parkton, Maryland, part of the bullseye of the current mess that you saw up there. I am a concerned citizen here as a concerned citizen, more than concerned. We bought land, and I love that we have similar stories. We bought land in Parkton, Maryland, 22 years ago. We actually fell into that land, if you will, by taking a wrong turn onto exit 33 off of I-83. And we fell in love, and we've never looked back. Our first impression was of the extreme beauty in that area and the peace of the area, how the wooded lots and wooded areas protect all of the wildlife. We see wildlife there that does not exist anywhere anymore in any other places. Wild turkeys, it's amazing. You look at your backyard. We looked at our backyard one Thanksgiving and there were 3 wild turkeys there. So we didn't do anything about that. We have the Pretty Boy Dam came up a lot. It's a gorgeous place. Not only a gorgeous place, it is the water. It is a water supply. Eventually, it feeds into the Chesapeake. How many times have we heard about protecting the Chesapeake Bay? We want to go put these towers, and I'm going to talk about those in 2 seconds, across, somehow, I don't know how they would do that, but at least the wires across that area. No matter which map you look at, that's there. That beautiful land, when we moved there, we thought so much of. Now, if anywhere you go from Beckleysville Road all the way to Maryland Line, all you see are streets that are lined, people's homes that have Stop MPRP signs on them. It is heartbreaking. I actually have to not have tears in my eyes when I say it. Then if you look at that dreaded yellow line that was shown earlier, that PSEG has on their website, you can focus in and see all the addresses and things like that. But all these pristine environments, the woodlands, everything I just talked about, fall within the grasp of that route, of those possible routes, and one of the routes will be the route. If MPRP, if it's approved, and I'm going to read this, will bring 70 miles of overhead structures comprised of H-frame towers placed 800 to 1,000 feet apart, right away of 150 feet, I hear it, and spans 500,000 volts of power lines between them. Who wants to live under that, next to that, or near that? I just wanted to please bring your all attention to this is a precedent. We can't let it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me see if there's any questions, comments, or thoughts?
Good.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please. And Councilman Ertel, when we were speaking of wild turkey, it's not the wild turkey you were thinking of. Okay.
I like that wild turkey.
Yes. Okay, Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Certainly. Our next speaker is Brandon Hill, who is here in person.
Schultz.
Hello, everyone. My name's Brandon Hill, and I own a conservation food forest in Whitehall. I started this stream 3 years ago when I was lucky enough to achieve my dream of acquiring farmland. The highlight of this forest so far is 15 hybrid blight-resistant chestnut trees. If allowed to go through, the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project will destroy what I have started, as well as my life in Baltimore County and my food forest dream. First, I would like to thank the Honorable Councilman Wade Koch for introducing the resolution 4524 and the rest of the Honorable Councilman for signing on. I think it is imperative that Resolution 4524 get passed unanimously. The Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project, if allowed to go through, will set a dangerous precedent in the state of Maryland. It will show that an out-of-state company, PSEG from New Jersey, can come into this state and use eminent domain for its own corporate gain as well as big tech's gain. Marylanders will not see any direct benefit from this transmission line. It's important to note that if allowed through in this manner, it will not be the last transmission line project Maryland faces in the coming years. In the coming days, the final route for MPRP will be released. Since PSEG is not a Maryland utility, it is important Baltimore County residents know their rights, that they do not have to sign anything PSEG puts in front of them, and they do not have to allow PSEG on their property at this time. I think it would go a long way if the council, as well as unanimously passing 4524, would send out a letter as soon as possible with this information to Baltimore County residents. This way, Baltimore County residents are made aware of their right to say no. We don't need increased transmission in Maryland, we need increased true green energy generation. Projects like MPRP have been stopped before throughout the PJM 13-state region. We can do it here in Maryland too. And I have one more minute, so I'll add, MPRP is directly to provide power to data centers in Virginia. It is not to give citizens reliable energy as the name implies. I think it's very important to ask the question, does powering data centers warrant the use of eminent domain on a 70-mile stretch of Maryland land?
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Any members have any questions? Mr. Hill, I just want to say thank you for bringing up the opportunities for renewable energy. I think this ignores the idea of renewable energy. I think we need to double down, triple down on our renewable efforts. I was asked yesterday by Ms. Babb about what are our alternatives, and I think it's renewables and more renewables.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I want to thank you for bringing that up, and I'm going to agree with Councilman Jones with what he said earlier. This is an issue beyond the limits of the council's authority, but because this affects Baltimore County residents, and that this is one of the only public forums that the people can be heard, that's why we're taking this on. And I'm sitting here and just had two folks testify, and we've had people come before the council and testify in other sessions. And we've seen NIMBYism before in each of our districts. We've all seen it, and this to me is quite different. This is not in my backyard. This is do not affect my personal property rights granted to me by the Constitution. So I just want to be clear, and I know we have media here. I wanted to be clear that I don't think any of us think that this is a NIMBY. This is about principle and what is the right thing to do. So that's what I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Belcastro. Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Joanne Frederick, who is here in person.
Thank you, Council Chair, members of the council, Councilman Koch. Sincerely appreciate your leadership here and the other council members for signing on. A couple quick things that part of the discussion before. PJM only does transmission by their own admission. So even if there were other solutions to this problem, that is not in their calculus. The IRP would demonstrate that we could meet this need by optimizing the resources in Maryland. And that's why we need the IRP. PJM is already working on the 2024 window, so you are correct, there are more coming. There's a list online. And land that is preserved has less monetary value by virtue of it being preserved. So we've done the right thing, and folks are going to pay the price for that twice. Now I'd like to read a letter that I received from someone in the community. Dear Stop MPRP Inc. Enclosed is my check for my dues and some extra to help with the cause. Thank you to everyone that has stepped up to help stop this outrage. I felt so powerless when I first found out about this project that could put power lines through the middle of my property next to my house, but now I have hope. I am a 77-year-old widow, and my husband loved this place. I told him I would stay here and take care of our home. When this started, I was so afraid I would break my promise. Please help me keep my word. Thank you again. I'm not going to read her name. I don't want her to be any more of a target than we all already are. So right now, there are thousands of people across Maryland afraid to check their mail because there are letters coming any day now. We don't know what it'll say other than, guess what, you're on the line. We do know that they'll say there's a realtor that's been, quote, assigned to negotiate with them. It is terrifying, and I hear from folks every day. They're terrified to check their mail. It's an unacceptable threat to the people in this county and to the other counties as well. People could start showing up at their doors demanding signatures. We understand that's happened in Pennsylvania. So this 77-year-old widow, who maybe or maybe not has a support system, is going to have people knocking on her door insisting that she sign this letter to give up her rights for her land, and that's unacceptable. We must stop this project. We must stop those types of things from happening to the folks in our community that are vulnerable. We're doing our best to protect them all, but we need help to do so. We can't reach them all, and I have a bit of fear that there's going to be confusion on who's the good guy and who's the bad guy and who's trying to help and who's not trying to help. So on behalf of folks like this woman, I appreciate the resolution, and I implore you, and I'm happy to work with you, to consider other things that we can do in the future to help protect people like this lady who are going to need every bit of our protection. We need to stop this project, and I know I'm at time, until we've exhausted all other options to optimize the existing grid, until we can create new generation in Maryland, including distributed generation, which is much more resilient and much more reliable than pointing everything to a single nuclear power plant or 2 nuclear power plants in Pennsylvania. Any future projects should fully comply with FERC Order 1920. This project was implemented prior to the final rule of FERC Order 1920. FERC Order 1920 requires a whole other set of transparency and meetings and information, et cetera, et cetera. This project got rushed through right before FERC Order 1920 was adopted, and they knew it was coming. And the process must be reformed so it doesn't strike fear into folks that we represent, folks like this woman. There could be additional projects in the future, but we have to do them differently so we don't face this kind of terror, and it is literally terror that's happening across Baltimore, Carroll, and Frederick County right now. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Frederick. Any of the members, Councilman Ertel?
Ms. Frederick, a quick question. You said what was the FERC?
FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission.
So FERC, and there was a
FERC.
I'm sorry, FERC,
Yes.
and there was a 20, what?
FERC Order 1920.
1920.
1920,
Okay.
which is a kind of transformation, if you will, evolution of how transmission projects get done in the country. And part of FERC Order 1920, and I'm happy to send a summary, it requires more conversation with community, it requires more transparency, it requires a greater level of data so we can actually see if this project is needed or not. No one has yet been able to demonstrate to us either, or Councilman Koch mentioned, that we actually need this to begin with. So I think it's important. The Department of Energy clearly recognized reform was needed. They worked on that reform over the series of several years, including proposed rules, final rules, comments, et cetera. And the order was made final just before PJM awarded these contracts. And PJM has until next March to comply with FERC Order 1920. So even this new window that they're working on It's unclear whether that will actually comply with FERC Order 1920 because they had time to implement. It's unacceptable. You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Frederick. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Michael Powers, who is here in person.
Mr. Powers. Yeah, good one. So is Chris Belcastro.
Oh, turn your mic on, Mr. Powers. Are you the powers to be?
What's that?
Are you the powers to be?
No, not at this time. One day, maybe. I aspire. Gentlemen, good afternoon, council members. My name is Michael Powers. I am a lifelong Baltimore County resident and a BGE ratepayer. Please keep in mind, gentlemen, you have obligations to those ratepayers, okay? And a proud representative of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, okay? Right. Local Union 70, all right? I build power lines for a living, all right? I am a proud representative of 1,900 skilled electrical workers. We stand today in opposition to Resolution 4524, which rejects the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project. While we recognize concerns regarding land use and environmental impacts, it is critical to understand that the MPRP is essential to ensuring energy reliability and supporting growth in our region, and that includes industry and good-paying jobs. As we move towards electrification, including the adaptation of electrical vehicles, tankless water heaters, and other technologies, our energy infrastructure must evolve to meet the rising demand. Without necessary upgrades, the grid will struggle, threatening the future of sustainable development in our communities. Additionally, BG&E ratepayers endure high electrical prices, the cost of doing business in your county, gentlemen. So to a project like the MPR will ensure that we have the capacity to power homes, businesses, and affordability and reliability, especially as energy demands grow. So beyond reliability, MPRP will generate hundreds of good-paying jobs for skilled electrical workers, jobs with wages that sustain families, provide health benefits, and open doors to future training opportunities. Rejecting this project not only risks energy stability, but also endangers these critical jobs, which are vital to the economic health of Baltimore County. Our workforce is prepared to build this infrastructure responsibly and sustainably, ensuring that it benefits both of our communities and the environment. We urge the council to consider a collaborative approach, working with the utilities, the environmental advocates, and labor unions to find a balanced solution. As a lifelong resident and BG ratepayer, I care deeply about this community and believe that working together, we can meet our energy needs without sacrificing our values. Thank you for your consideration, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Councilman Jones?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Powers. And believe me when I tell you, when you start talking about jobs, it's not lost on me. And I don't think it's lost on any of our members up here in the council. We certainly care. And I agree that there should be a collaboration. But unfortunately, we are here in Baltimore County, and it appears as though the other powers to be, don't feel it's necessary to come here because they have the power, and I would urge everybody, the power is going to rest with the Public Service Commission. That's where the pressure has to be placed because they appear to be the only ones that will have some type of control over whether or not this project moves forward or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I may offer a perspective to your initial question, yes, Maryland does need these power lines. We do not produce enough electricity of our own. Our demand is growing. We'll be shutting down 2 large coal-fired power plants that was negotiated by the Sierra Club to provide cleaner electricity. This is a proposal to provide greener electricity to Maryland and subsidize the grid and Northern Virginia. And yes, it will provide the essential electricity for data centers that provide jobs, that sustains industry in our state. Absolutely. If not this project, and I appreciate not your backyard, I appreciate it 100%. It's not my backyard. But if not this one, it will be the next one, and we will be facing rolling blackouts, brownouts. There will need to be a solution. If not this solution, the next one.
Mr. Powell?
I was told that, and Councilman Catch can correct me, that the power is needed.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Because if these lines are not built, then them data centers are going to get their lines from the existing lines we have now, which will cause problems. So the answer seems to be build those additional lines on existing right-of-ways. But for some reason, I don't know why that's not possible or why Councilman Catch eloquently has indicated that he believes it's an issue of profit, that, you put it on BGE's right-of-way.
So money always matters, right?
You got to pay them.
No doubt about it. The cost of doing business always counts, okay? I suggest a perspective in that with the demand of electricity the way it is, and when you're in the business that I'm in order to put it on the existing right-of-ways, you're talking about shutting down existing parts of the grid in order to facilitate that. In my business, it's getting harder and harder to get those outages, get electrical producer to shut down that power grid while we work on it. With that in mind, I have members that bear hand, $500,000. They take greater risk because they can't afford, the utilities can't afford to shut down those transmission lines while they're upgraded, while they're being maintained. So there is a balance. It's not as simple as just to say, just use existing right-of-ways. You have to consider what it would take to use those existing right-of-ways and the consequences of shutting down those existing transmission lines, for times to do so. So, yeah, money matters. I'm not going to say it doesn't. It does. And you have an obligation to BG&E ratepayers. Keep in mind, all your suggestions also incur more costs by, every single BG&E ratepayer, every Dominion ratepayer, every Potomac Edison ratepayer. So that's every single person, would incur those additional costs, right? And to the inconvenience of a small handful, which I acknowledge that inconvenience, but again, it would affect literally every ratepayer in Maryland.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Go to Councilman Crandall, then Councilman Catch.
Yeah, save the best for last for Mr. Powers. Mr. Powers, I was, when we're given a list of our speakers, and somehow you were...
It's probably my fault. Yeah,
you put in as for the resolution, and I was just kind of... Oh, do you need my electricity?
Yes.
And you take my charger?
Yes.
You should have just...
Power we have to have.
I'll build you a new distribution line.
We had a freeway right through here.
So I was kind of, when you said, I'm here representing 70, I was like, wow, this doesn't seem right that 70 would be for this resolution.
I filled the form out improperly.
And I think you were very clear in your argument, and I thank you for testifying before us. As far as the sharing of right-of-way, I think Ms. Frederick alluded to this in her testimony today, that sharing a right-of-way for transmission lines is not in PJM's business model. That's just not how they make money. And the same thing that Councilman Catch said, that this is about profit. PJM has to answer probably to shareholders and investors, and they do not want to share profits on a particular project. But even though that you may not agree with us, Mr. Powers, on the opposition to this project, there are things that you said that show me that there's actually more agreement than we might think on certain things. One is that we have policies that are in conflict with themselves. We are shutting down plants without a plan, either renewables or nuclear or whatever. We're shutting down plants for environmental reasons without a plan on how we handle the load when we have even the most environmentally minded among us carrying laptops, cell phones, portable blenders, a myriad of different things that require electricity. So I think that we're kind of in agreement on that fact that we have policy in conflict with itself, and it's led to situations like the one that Frederick, Harrow, and Baltimore County are in right now. So I wanted to read the first paragraph of the fiscal note for this resolution, and it's another point of agreement on, okay, we both recognize that we have a problem. We recognize that we have policy in conflict with itself, and that we can probably work out solutions if we put our minds to working out the solutions. And there is in this resolution a recommendation for a collaborative approach. So the first paragraph, I'll try to get through it quickly. Resolution 4524 opposes the MPRP, and 1, encourages the Public Service Commission to reject the MPRP. 2, encourages the General Assembly to require that all Maryland utilities conduct a full integrated resource plan biannually that is evaluated by the PSC. And 3, and this is the most important one, encourages state elected leaders to establish and implement a Maryland coordinated planning group as a collaborative, you used the word a couple times, a collaborative organization to play a key role in planning and coordinating the electric transmission system in Maryland. And my colleagues, especially Councilman Katch, have alluded to this. We do not have a coherent plan in the state of Maryland for how we handle this load. And I've had conversations with your colleagues at BGE that have said the same thing. We are not in a good spot with closing down plants and relying on long-distance transmission lines from other states that are also under a lot of pressure to close fossil fuel plants. So I think that there is, again, you might not agree with the opposition to this particular project that most of us here feel, but there are points that we agree on that I think are the most important things that can come out of this discussion.
I totally agree with you. My only suggestion to that, sir, is expediency. Keep in mind that the PJM window, that plan has to happen now. You know, those coal-fired power plants southeast of Baltimore are due to go off in 2025. Now, they won't go off in 2025. It's because we've drug our feet. We haven't built the infrastructure to shut them down. It'll be much closer to 2030. So we sort of kid ourselves into thinking that, we're doing something green. And every single new law, gentlemen, comes with a green initiative nowadays. And I'm just a construction worker, super simple, keep it stupid kind of guy. But every new green initiative, sirs, means more electricity. Like I said, if not this project, it will come. There will have to be a solution. We don't make enough, we don't deliver enough, and expediency, that plan will need to develop very quickly. We're already behind.
Councilman Katch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Much of what the councilman from District 7 said, I was going to say as well. I have a question about cutting off power in order to use existing right-of-ways. Isn't that the purpose of the data centers?
Purpose of data centers? I guess I don't understand. No, pretty much so you have existing right-of-ways with transmission lines going, and say it's a 230 line. So for the most part, for us to do what we need to do to either upgrade that 230 line, rewire that 230 line, and it's not usually as simple as that because those structures are designed to support that load. To increase the load means new engineering. It's a lot more to that. But to physically shut down that 230 line to build a new one is a real issue. what does that 230 line feed right now? And then how do you reroute the electricity to shut those down? And again, I'm overgeneralizing, but in my business, it's getting harder and harder to get those outages. It's because the demand for electricity is great. The utilities can't afford to shut down those lines. Even when we have scheduled work, we'll have crews sitting there waiting for that outage, and, oh, well, the temperature went up 10 degrees. We can't turn electricity off today. Go home, we'll have to do it again. So that means even scheduled maintenance to existing lines is even become more difficult because we can't get the outages because the demand is great, depending on the weather, a lot of other factors. So that's just a factor I'm sort of suggesting.
What I meant by that is we still have the ability, should a line be out, to redirect.
Yeah.
And that's part of the purpose of the data center.
The grid, right.
And so, as the problem continues to get worse, I know that the options will be more limited, but I just feel that the harm that's going to come to the county, to the state, from this plan that was created by a company that's not even in Maryland. I mean, there weren't even any public hearings or anything. I mean,
Right.
One thing that is important is that government be open and transparent. And there really isn't any openness and transparency here, except for what we're doing right now. As the delegate from Councilman from District 7 said, this resolution calls for a coordinated effort to address this problem. And I understand that you're concerned about a delay. But sometimes delays are worthwhile because what is in front of you just isn't satisfactory. So we need to have an alternative. And we need an alternative. I don't know how many people here tonight were affected by the Colonial Pipeline situation, and where they, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, I will say that BGE and the company that put in the pipeline, they work very closely with me and the elected officials. And, so we didn't have the situation where people were, a stranger arrived at the door and that kind of thing. That did not happen, thankfully. At least I don't think it happened. But Northern Baltimore County was hit by that. And now this. And we can do a better job. I know we can. And I would hope that should the state decide to take this problem as a whole and look for alternative solutions, coordinated solutions, that the union would be involved in any study and recommendation like we're talking about, because obviously you're very familiar with this.
Sure.
And your
it's what I
input
do.
would be very valuable. And you can just answer yes or no.
And the IBEW is pro-energy, and
Yeah.
I agree with your sentiments on nuclear energy. It's part of why those transmission lines are proposed. It's coming from a nuclear plant in southern, Pennsylvania. You perfectly know well the difficulties facing and, upgrading and/or increasing the capacity at Calvert Cliffs. We would be absolute proponents for that. And let me get super crazy. We wouldn't be proponents for a new nuclear plant in Maryland. But we have to be honest with ourselves. That's not going to happen today, tomorrow, the next day. And the chances of that really happening are very slim. We are builders of the offshore wind. We put in the infrastructure for that. We build solar farms. It's the same business. We build substations outside solar farms to deliver that electricity. We are proponents for all things energy, quite frankly honest. It's just, like I said, and the PJM, you know, and I get it, is being demonized. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm of the personal opinion that that's the most perfect system, but that's the system that's been in place, and that's the planning. You know, they're the planners of the grid, you know, the keepers of the 13 states. So keep in mind the grid is affected not only in Maryland, you know, it affects everything else that's connected to it and how that load is distributed across that grid. And that's, I mean, that's the business PJM is in. PJM takes from the utilities their projected electrical demands and comes up with a rudimentary plan to deliver that electricity. And again, I'm way oversimplifying it, but that is how it is. And those projections are, you know, 5 years in advance. The planning stages are that far out, and that comes from the local projection of the electrical needs. So again, if not this, it'll be the next one where you will be facing rolling blackouts and, you know, and not have the electricity to support, you know, growth and industry.
Thank you, Mr. Powers.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair, I realize that we're about 4 items into our agenda, and I don't want to belabor, but I thought this was worth sharing. So years ago, when the owners of the Bethlehem Steel site were struggling, they were looking at ways to save Mr. Powers is a local, you probably remember this. So FERC approved a liquid natural gas facility at Sparrows Point. And this kind of reminds me of that same argument, because the argument was, well, this is our only alternative to saving this property. This is our only way at creating more jobs. And on the other side of the argument were environmental concerns about terrorism. There was some NIMBY going on. There was. So there were a lot of community folks that were against LNG at Sparrows Point. And ultimately, the project was killed. It didn't happen. And the community went through some pain as the steel plant went defunct, and we went from thousands of jobs to 0 jobs. But after we went through the pain, and there was a collaborative approach between the public and private sector, look at where we are now with 15,000 jobs, a lot of them very well-paying jobs, with the possibility of even more. And you mentioned offshore wind. We would be the hub of the offshore wind industry if the industry can actually get going. So I think, you know, sometimes the opportunity right before us is not necessarily the opportunity that we should grab simply for the sake of expediency. Because sometimes with working together and a little bit of patience, better things actually present themselves. And that's an example of that. But again, I do appreciate you coming in and stating your case. I think you stated it very well. Thank you, sir. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Ms. Bell.
Can I say one? Thank you, Mr. Powers, for coming in, and I appreciate your perspective, and I don't think it's fair for you to stand here and have to take the brunt of all of this and answer all of our questions, but obviously you're capable of doing it, and you're only one here, so thank you so much. Sure.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Belcastro. Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is bear with me one moment. Jennifer Small, who is on virtually.
Okay.
Ms. Small,
good evening,
you may
Ms.
begin your
Small.
testimony.
Okay. Thank you. My name's Jennifer Small, and I live in Upper Baltimore County in Upperco, and we have a beautiful little town called Trenton, built in the 1800s. We have a lot of preserved land throughout. I have biodiversity on my little farm, and of course, MPRP splits it right in half. I've been a single parent since my children were 4 and 5. I worked really hard all my life and worked 3 and 4 jobs sometimes. And, anyway, that's the personal side of it. I would like to bring up that as a ratepayer, I oppose the MPRP in addition to the destruction that it brings to this county, and all counties, Frederick County, Carroll County, and Baltimore County. This project, if you look at the bid proposal process that was accepted by PJM, this was the PSEG project was 637. Right now, it's over $1 billion project proposal. In the filing, if you look at the filings, the bid was for a 40 mile line. Now if you look at the documents that PJM has on the website, and my sister and I have done an analysis of it. It looked like it was just pushed through. PSEG project 637. It has a significant and unexplained identified error, several errors that went unaddressed and unexplained in all public PJM documents and throughout the competitive bid process. So as a member of the rate-paying public, we would maintain that this significant error and other errors in the PSEG Project 637 analysis should not be acceptable in the normal course of doing business, and a transparent explanation is in order, with supplementary filings made to the administrative record in FERC 24-103-00317, should the bid process have been compromised. Already that the PJM has approved a 20% cap. The company that's going to be doing this is a LLC under the PSEG company. The PSEG Renewable Transmission LLC, which is it's not even a Maryland utility, and I know I'm over, but I think you should consider this as a Maryland ratepayer. This is totally unacceptable, and this is for data centers in Virginia. There's no substations along the way. It's totally for data centers in Virginia, and they need to build their own power station. Anyway, I wanted to thank everybody. I wanted to thank the councilman, and particularly Wayne Koch, Councilman Jones, and all the councilmen, particularly everybody that's supported this opposition to MPRP. And thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Small.
Thank you.
Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Is Gail Meerder. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Oh, one moment.
Ms. Meerter.
Are you there, Ms. Meerter?
I am, thank you.
You may begin your testimony.
Thank you. I'm actually just pulling off over in the car, driving through the community. Thank you, Baltimore County Council members. The power lines are not going through my land per se. However, they're going through many of my neighbors, including my sister and brother-in-law's house, which it would completely demolish. So I strongly oppose MPRP. I support the bill that you have drafted. The proposed pathways by PSEG and all of the behind-scenes work of PJM, it's not sustainable energy policy. As we've heard today, it has been completely not transparent, and I am quite sure it has not followed many of the rules that need to comply with the process and the environmental studies, et cetera. The corporations that MPRP will serve have all been given tax incentives. These AI data centers have been lured to Virginia and bordering Maryland to support this area being the prime data center area of the country. So there's really no stopping this industry and this next wave of industry. It is our future. However, Maryland is in a very pivotal place to set policy that will fuel the next wave of industry. And I think that you as council members, as well as all of our other representatives in Maryland, have a great opportunity to oppose this project and to set policy that will support all of the citizens of Maryland. We've heard from Joanne and Brandon and all of the other citizens who spoke, and there are thousands of citizens who have joined the movement to stop NPRP. We have one of the most admirable, arguably one of the most extensive land conservation programs in Baltimore County, and our land preservation programs knit a strong community regardless of our political stance. They conserve our agriculture. All of these easements serve to preserve open space. They fight against climate change. They support our flora and fauna. The businesses, the equestrian businesses, our agriculture, the list goes on and on. And it's my strong belief that we have an opportunity, as well as our delegates, to support us to set clean energy policy here, and to many of the council members commented earlier, to really make good on, if we set clean energy policy, what's the plan? And if we move forward with NPRP and let the Public Service Commission agree to the plans and approve the plans, there's really no turning back. The land will be seized, we'll have eminent domain, businesses will be ruined, our community will be broken. So I strongly urge you to take this even further, if you can, further than Baltimore County, and help support the citizens that you represent. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Meerter. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Renee Hamidi, who is here in person.
Ms. Hamidi is here.
Good evening. Chairman Patoka, County Council members, I'm Renee Hamidi, representing Valleys Planning Council. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about Resolution 4524. This is not the first time you've heard me talk about the NPRP. The first time was back in July. I'm sure Councilman Marks, you remember when you were putting in a bill that would allow a reuse of the old CP Crane site. I hope you understand why I had a knee-jerk reaction to data centers. But we got that straight. Yeah. Yes. But we got it straightened out. You've heard about the potential effects on the environment of the NPRP, how habitat will be destroyed, water that hundreds of thousands of people drink will be dirtier, as will the bay. Thousands of trees that clean our air and mitigate climate change will be cut down. Farmland will be lost, wetlands will be eliminated, and views will be ruined. And that's not the half of it. Property values will be reduced. It will cost more to farm what farmland is left. Land that costs millions of dollars for the state and county to preserve will be developed, and further preservation will be less likely, because who wants to preserve their land if they're preserving it just so it can have utility lines put on it? There's more. You and I and all the people in Baltimore County who pay for electricity will pay for the NPRP, even though the line does not benefit us directly. And if that's not enough, the NPRP is just the beginning. More lines in Baltimore County are planned. I'm not even talking about the couple of BGE projects that we know about, and I'm not even talking about 5 or 10 years down the line when data centers that are not yet a twinkle in the developer's eye are being built. Because planning for the transmission of energy needed for those data centers, not to mention the production of the energy, the planning is at best abysmal, at worst non-existent. This resolution does not fix all the issues, but it's a necessary step to let the PSC know that you don't want the NPRP, to request integrated resource plans, to ask that a study on the impacts of the MPRP be done so it can be used to argue against the MPRP at the PSC, and to ask for a Maryland coordinated planning group that could work with PJM before it conceives of things like the MPRP. Before I finish, I just want to address one thing. I've heard a few people asking about why can't we just use the existing rights of way. PSEG, the Public Service Enterprise Group, which is the organization that's got the contract to build this thing, has told us from the beginning that BGE said no, that they wouldn't allow PSEG to use the lines. I was at a meeting last week where BGE was talking about one of their projects, and they said, oh, PSEG never came to us. They've never even asked. Who's telling the truth? I don't know. I and many others appreciate your support of this resolution, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Hamidi. Ms. Hamidi, I just want to share with you, I met with BG&E last week, and they had a very similar comment that they had with you, that they said that it's patently untrue that they were not interested in their lines, that was a false narrative that has been created. So to me, it just seems like these, and I could be wrong, but I'd be interested in your opinion on this, is that these large entities, BGE and PSEG, is that right, PSEG, did I get that right? And PJM, I guess, that they just need to work together, and I think Councilman Katch's idea of having a larger entity kind of encourage them to work together, that we have a plan, and it's not just these two large corporations trying to engage and to enhance their own profit. And so just wanted to get your take on that.
Well, I think rather than encourage, maybe require is required here.
Yeah, I like that better.
Yeah. And it's all about the money. And if you just remember that, I think that makes it clearer.
My gut is telling me that if they were, and this is just gut, sometimes, and gut can carry you sometimes, is that there may be resistance to sharing space,
Of course, because they don't want to share the money or the power, and I don't mean the electricity.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
so they'd rather take the beautiful space in Upper County. Okay, thank you, Ms. Hamidi.
Thank you.
Oh, Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. Do you or does anyone here know, would we be the first local government to come out against this?
No, okay. I actually sent an email to all of you some time ago. Didn't receive a response, and I don't know if, and in fact, I sent an email to all of you ahead of this meeting too with some maps and more information. And just before I came here, found out most of them were kicked back. So I don't know if the fix is in and my emails aren't going through, but Carroll County and Frederick County, both very early, like months ago, came out in opposition. United, unanimous, said, no, this is not something that we want. And I was kind of surprised not to hear from you all. So I'm glad, better late than never. But I think it's when you know that the PSC, the first thing that they're required to look at is how do you feel? How does the county feel about this line? You understand why it's really important that you express your opinions.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Hamidi, I believe Governor Moore has come out with a statement on this. Is that correct?
I'm not, if he has, I'm not aware that it's as strong as maybe it could be phrased.
Councilman Katch?
Yeah, Senator Cardin has a very strong message in opposition to this. Well-researched, well done.
And some of our state elected officials, some of our delegates and senators also came out more than a month ago in opposition as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hamidi.
All right, thank you.
Your email may have gone into something in our system called quarantine, and then we don't see it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I won't take it personally.
Don't take it personally.
The IT director is here.
Okay, yeah. The IT director is here, so he can unquarantine things at the snap of a finger.
final speaker for this item is Sean McIntosh, who is on virtually. You may begin your testimony.
Yes, good evening, Council Chair Patoka and council members. My name is Sean McIntosh, and I'm a resident of Sparks, Maryland. I want to thank you, Councilman Koch and co-sponsors, for putting forth this resolution. I'm here today to express my full support in the hopes that it will pass unanimously. It looks like it may. Almost every one of you has co-sponsored at this point. Thank you so much. Although my property is not directly impacted by any of the proposed lines for the Maryland Piedmont Reliability Project, any of the lines proposed will have detrimental impacts on our farms, forests, and wetlands in northern Baltimore County. This resolution is more than just a piece of legislation. It represents a vital commitment to preserving essential components of our natural heritage and community identity. Baltimore County has been nationally recognized for its efforts to preserve land. We were a pioneer in preservation when the urban-rural demarcation line was created in 1967, when we passed rural conservation zoning in the 1970s, and when we implemented smart growth strategies in the 1990s. We have invested hundreds of millions of dollars in land preservation efforts and consequently have beautiful rural landscapes, forests, streams, and rivers for everyone to enjoy and benefit from. Once they are gone, they are gone. PSEG is claiming that these lines are necessary in order to avoid future brownouts and blackouts in Maryland. However, at last week's BGE community meeting to discuss their upcoming reconductoring project, they confirmed that the project would meet Maryland's future energy needs using existing right-of-ways. PSEG is using a false narrative and scare tactics to secure energy needs for data centers in Virginia. I commend you for recognizing that there are better solutions and that we must not put profits over people. This resolution takes a stand for our farmers who work tirelessly to provide fresh produce and sustain our economy, emphasizes the need to protect forests and natural spaces, ensuring that future generations can enjoy the beauty and benefits of our woodlands, and protects our wetlands, which are a vital resource for our environment. In closing, I urge each of you to support Council Resolution 4524. By doing so, we are making a conscious choice to preserve the essence of Baltimore County, our farms, forests, and wetlands. Let us commit to protecting these invaluable resources for the benefit of our environment, our economy, and the well-being of our residents. Together, we can ensure that Baltimore County remains a thriving and beautiful place for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McIntosh. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
The last speaker for this item.
Okay, then we're going to move right along. Thank you all for speaking today.
Mr. Boswick, sorry, Chair.
Yes, go right ahead.
Can you put me on as well, since I'm the lone not in?
There you go.
It wasn't, I wasn't holding out or anything. I just.
It would make it a lot easier on our typists.
There you
to
go.
have it be all
Thank
council.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, next item is, let's see. Oh, I kind of missed 3, 4. Okay, we're going to go to Cheryl Hill, Circuit Court, bills for fist. You must be Kevin. Okay. Page 11 for anyone following along.
Good evening. Ms. Earl couldn't be here, so I'm here in her place tonight. My name is Kevin Ledford from Circuit Court, as we said. The reason I'm here tonight is to request the acceptance of grant funding from the Administrative Office of the Courts. The Administrative Office awarded Baltimore County Circuit Court $42,161 to purchase safety equipment for the Circuit Court. The Administrative Office, through their Security Administration, issued a request for scope of work to all courts throughout Maryland to provide assistance for the purchase of security items from a pre-established list This equipment was to be purchased in accordance with the procurement policies of the county. The circuit court requested badge scan readers for the judicial security elevators that the judges need to utilize, as well as bullet-resistant barriers for security personnel, mostly in the Sheriff's Department. The total of the sum of the $42,161, this figure was produced from quotes provided by current county vendors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledford. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Mr. Ledford? Okay, hearing none, appreciate your time. Next item in page 14 is our fire department, our fire marshal, Gretchen Yingling.
Good evening, council members. Council Chairman Patoka, thank you so much for letting me be here this evening. The reason for my appearance tonight is Baltimore County Fire Department is requesting an amendment for the 2025 current expense budget by appropriating $105,250, which includes $5,011.90 of matching funds to the Gifts and Grants Special Review Fund, monies derived from federal funds made available to Baltimore County through the Fire Prevention and Safety Grant and the Department of Homeland Security Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Matching funds are derived from local shares RC 45200 and RC 45210. FEMA has made an award of federal funds available to the Baltimore County Fire Department to be used to reestablish the smoke detector program, which ceased with COVID-19. This program offers free combination carbon monoxide alarms and standard fire alarms to Baltimore County residents. There are no minimum income or eligibility requirements. Our outreach efforts include neighborhood canvassing, which is targeted at our lower income neighborhoods, as our research has shown that they are the most likely to not have working smoke detectors in their homes and also present with financial barriers to purchasing them. This will allow all residents access to functioning fire alarms to bring their homes more aligned with the established Maryland state requirement. Educational information to be included with the smoke detector distribution program will be relayed verbally during the installation, as well as distributed literature focusing on smoke and carbon monoxide detectors and fire safety, and contact information for our Community Risk Reduction Office and website for additional assistance and available resources. Educational information is also shared frequently on social media. The grant period is September 17, 2024 through September 16, 2026. The appropriation is a split funding opportunity with a 95% FEMA and 5% county matching award. The total award is in the amount of $133,909.89, comprised of federal funds, matching 95% in the amount of $127,533.22, with a matching cost to Baltimore County of $6,376.67 for 2 years. I also did receive a follow-up question. I'm happy to read my responses to that, unless you'd like to present additional questions first.
Thank you. Any comments, questions for Chief Yingling?
Is that the auditor's question?
The question that was sent this afternoon is a follow-up in reference to the previous grant that was suspended during COVID-19. I'm happy to answer that. Yes. Was that from you, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So the question was, the department advised that the county smoke detector program ceased during COVID-19 pandemic, although grant funds were still available, which we do acknowledge. And the question was, did the department consider any alternative ways of distributing the detectors, such as mailing them to residents, et cetera? So the information I was able to gather is we did actually continue to distribute alarms during COVID-19 for people who requested them and were comfortable with us entering their homes and or that we interacted with during a emergency medical or fire response. Additionally, the only thing that the fire department stopped was the community canvassing and knocking on doors to decrease exposure. We did leave some funding on the table, regrettably, because FEMA, after they were contacted to explain the situation, denied us to stockpile the purchases. What we had at supply was only able to be purchased in blocks, and they would not allow us to pre-spend the money to stockpile the product. They would only allow us to make purchases as we would run out. Obviously, the request and the demand for the alarms diminished during the COVID pandemic, and we were not able to purchase any additional. Additionally, there was no line item specified in the grant to include shipping and potential installation. Of note is that a major concern is residents' inability to install the alarms that we had purchased. In our experience, a few things. Number one, when a smoke detector is just handed to a resident, it's typically either not installed at all or forgotten about, or it is not installed correctly. Additionally, a waiver is required, and it would have been very difficult to get the waivers back from the persons that we were providing the alarms to. Another problem was that the installation required power drills and screws. They were not peel and stick devices. And then finally, a big piece of the program is the in-person education and community outreach. It's a critical piece to provide things like not only placement of the smoke detector, but escape plans, close before you doze, et cetera. As I said, we did continue to do the in-person delivery until we completely depleted what we had during the COVID-19 pandemic. But by the time that we went to purchase, again, the grant period had closed.
Thank you, Chief Yingling. Councilman Crandall?
Chief, I'm a little confused. Does the department physically go into people's homes and physically install these and get them up and running?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the policy. So if a citizen wants one, but they say they're going to install it themselves, do we take them at their word for it, or is the policy that we want the department to install it?
We have not had anybody deny us the ability. In fact, 90% of the people, the first thing out of their mouth is, I really need a smoke detector, but I'm not capable or I don't know how to. Another issue is that, we have to ensure the smoke detectors, if it's a rental property, must come from the landlord. The Maryland state law requires that landlords are responsible. So we're gleaning that information and ensuring that they're the homeowner or they represent the homeowner. For instance, a person's son or daughter is calling on their behalf. Once we explain to them that it's not a peel and stick, everyone asks us to install, and it also allows us to do what we call like a courtesy home inspection. Do you have any problems inside your home that could prevent you from getting out in a hurry? Do you have overloaded power strips or other items that could potentially be brought forward?
Got it. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you so much, Chief.
Sure, thank you so much.
Okay, our next item is we're going to hold these two items to the last to get everybody out of here. Next item is, Chris Martin, come on up. And just to put the batting order, it's going to be followed by Deb Schindel, followed by Michelle Mills. Director Martin.
Good evening. So this is for Iron Mountain, which we use for records management, specifically in storage. It's a change order. So the county's record management services agreement was solicited in 2003 and awarded in 2004. Originally awarded under the Nova Guardian name, this vendor now operates as Iron Mountain Information Management Inc., DBA Iron Mountain Inc. In 2023, the county began the process of preparing for the next step towards a new agreement, which included evaluating currently stored documents, impact of increase in cost and destruction of documents based on county policies. Purchasing identified an Omnia contract that provided the best competitively bid pricing, but was still higher than the county's then pricing. It was in the county's best interest to eliminate boxes at current pricing prior to the agreement expiration of 6/30/2024. The county had 37,222 cartons at Iron Mountain. A significant effort was made to have all the boxes destroyed if the destruction date was prior to 2023. The total savings and cost avoidance was just under $20,000 by destroying these stored documents, trying to get them destroyed before new prices hit on the next contract coming up. Upon council approval, the purchase order will cover services until the multi-year agreement is finalized and approved by council. The compensation cap is $101,000 with an anticipated completion of the multi-year agreement no later than December 31st, 2024. Storage cost is ongoing existing business provided by Iron Mountain. From July 1st to now represents approximately $24,418 in spend for storage. Destruction requested prior to 6/30/2024 went into a queue to be completed. Requests for services prior to 6/30/2024 are being or have been completed and billed after 6/30 and represents $12,129 in spend for document destruction. I have two questions that were sent prior. Would you like me to answer them? So the first was, when did Iron Mountain begin providing document destruction services? We don't use Iron Mountain as our primary destruction services. We use a different vendor that they bring the boxes out here. Their destruction is focused on documents that are in long-term storage at their facilities. So they pull the boxes and then destroy them after the retention period is up or when we ask them to, usually based off that retention service. When did we start using it? April 8th. What caused the delay in bringing the new contract to the council for approval, given the importance of maintaining continuity of services? The cooperative agreement was identified and approved for use in March 2024. Effort was made to begin negotiation. Purchasing officially received a point of contact in May of 2024 from Iron Mountain. Purchasing received the participating addendum at the end of August. Finishing reviews are, we're currently finalizing the business associate agreement and the non-disclosure agreement to complete the effort. So it's unfortunately just takes months of negotiation to get where we are to complete that.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts for Mr. Martin? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item is Ms. Deb Schindel, and it looks like you have two items, two contracts.
Good evening, Council President and members of the County Council. The administration is requesting approval of a contract with Atomis Solutions and Poliski Brothers, Inc., PVI Commercial, for on-call duct cleaning and mold remediation services at various Baltimore County locations. At no time shall this contract exceed the $199,745. This is a one-year contract with 4 one-year renewals. This contract has an MBE goal of 20%. It was competitively bid, and we chose best qualified, lowest bid, and best value. One of the questions we've received from the auditors on this was, why did we not award to all of 5 vendors that we came who bid on this? Because we do competitively bid it even after this. We do take into consideration the financial threshold of this contract, meaning it's very low, only $200,000. Less than $200,000, and the workload itself. We are mindful and that we are respectful to the contractors so that we don't set them up for using all of their resources and not receiving any awards. So we felt that 2 vendors could handle the amount for this contract. I can take any other questions on this contract that you would like.
Thank you, Ms. Schindel. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts? Ms. Schindler can go right ahead to the second contract.
Thank you. The administration is requesting approval of a contract for Rolling Doors LLC and Callahan Construction Company, or Callahan Enterprise, to furnish labor, materials, and tools, equipments, and supervision to all overhead door services at various county-owned or operating facilities. Again, this is a one-year contract with a 4 one-year renewal option. This was competitively bid, best value, experience, and low bid. And one of our vendors, Callahan, is an MBE Prime. I can also ask her any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Ms. Schindel. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts? Okay, thank you, Ms. Schindel.
Thank you.
Appreciate your patience. Our next speaker is Michelle Mills from the Department of Aging.
Good evening. This is the second presentation for the supplemental appropriation from the Maryland Department of Aging for $94,868 for our long-term and dementia care program that we would like to start. This will help benefit folks in Baltimore County, older adults and their care providers who are living with dementia, and we hope to develop a program that will help them access resources and programs as they go through that journey.
Thank you, Ms. Mills. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Ms. Mills? Well, that was easy, Ms. Mills. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for waiting. Okay, our next item is Kevin Reed, Office of Budget, amending the 2024-2025 capital budget.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and council members. This is a second reading of Bill 7624, and we have been discussing the likelihood that we would be financing debt after the adoption of the county budget, and through that we would receive some bond premium. We had discussed this during the capital budget hearings and also provided a list of what we would put towards that premium. We estimated about $15 million, and we came in just shy of that. And so we put in these various projects and capital categories that you see here. For transparency purposes, we also received debt premium for Metro of $4.8 million. That is not for council approval, but we included in this for transparency matters. And again, this would have met this. These are not county funds. This is debt premium that resulted as of the sale of the bond premium. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, do any of the members, Councilman Marks?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Reed, for working with our office on this. And I'm just going to repeat again, I asked this at the last meeting, Ms. Buckler, I know you're in the back of the room. So the improvements along Campbell Boulevard meet all county requirements, correct? Manual and uniform traffic control device and all traffic calming requirements. So once we approve this funding, they are ready to build. Okay. So we can try to get these out the door, right? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any members have any additional? If not, I have several questions, Mr. Reed. So first, we know specifically, like for each item here, like some are identified specifically. Let's just go through. Some are in a program account: curbs, gutters, sidewalks, roadway resurfacing, traffic calming, neighborhood park, recreation facilities, athletic fields. Do we know, let's say for curbs, gutters, sidewalks, like which ones do we have like a list of what makes up this $1.5 million in supplemental?
Director Buckler, I believe we work with DPWT they're the subject matter experts as we move through these projects and working on the conditions of the road that they move through those. I don't know if we have an exact list of roads that are scheduled to be paved with this, but there is a methodology that they work for. If you want to talk about road repaving.
I guess for all of these, not just specifically for roads, but for each bulk account item, do we know like which, so at the first consideration, I think it was first consideration, correct, Mr. Boswick? I talked about, can you identify which, the second district fared very, very poorly in the last capital budget. And so we're hoping that through this supplemental budget that there would be some ability to address some of the capital need. And so I've been interacting with Mr. Croner to try to pull, it's like pulling teeth there sometimes, to get specific capital projects like what's in the district. And so I shared with you, Ms. Buckner, last week that the Powhatan streets are in, every year I come back and please do Kellogg's Road, Retlaw Road, Norvo Road, Robin Hill Road. And so I know that it's data driven. And I was going to ask you this during your confirmation. So data driven is really cool. It's really sexy. But if you don't weave in community sentiment, then we failed, because otherwise we've hailed to the data, but we failed to our residents, our citizens. And we got to really hail to our residents. And I feel like, the paver system's really cool, but our residents, at least in the second district, don't think it's so cool because we continue to have streets that don't get addressed. And so for me, is there any updates on Kellogg's Road, Norvo Road, Retlaw Road, Robin Hill Road, Tulsa Road?
I know we looked into them. I don't know off the top of my head what the rating was. I will get back to you. I'm sorry I don't have that, but I did double check while I was sitting here because you were going to ask. In calendar year 24, so paving season, so we end up stopping. But over the last calendar year, District 2 has had 13 lane miles of roads paved based on the paver rating system. I'm not going to say which one, but the lowest district only had 1.6 miles of roads. So I will say that District 2 had the most road paving of all the districts in this last calendar year based on paver, which is a rating system on the condition of the roads. So we're looking at where the roads are in the worst shape and doing.
I get that. It's just year after year. Like can someone, let me ask you this, can someone from your office go to a Powhatan Farms community meeting with me and try to explain why year after year they've requested their roads to be done and we can't achieve a basic request? And these roads are not very long. They're pretty short. And Mr. Croner, I appreciate you letting me know that Oregon Ridge is going to get some attention, but it's not in the second district. And I think you pointed that out. But I think it makes a statement. If you have to pull in order to satisfy one council member's request, you have to look around the other districts and say, hey, this one's nearby. To me, that's unsatisfactory. And we did that dance at the fiscal 25 when you informed me of what the fiscal 25, and now we're doing that same dance that, Mr. Croner, no offense, it's an unsatisfying dance. So in any case, it's really concerning to me that we don't have the ability to be specific. We do a 6-year program. Tomorrow night, actually, we're going to do the first step in the fiscal 26 capital program. And I just don't, it's just mind-boggling that we can't have some level of predictability and specificity to our communities about projects, when they're going to happen, where they're going to happen, how much it's going to cost, what's the fund source. And, we can do design in 1 year. We don't have to do everything in the budget year. We can space them out, but at least allow us to have some ability to share with our residents, our constituents, like what year there will be attention. Everything doesn't have to be in the budget year, but if we can say, like in year 4, you get design money in year 3 and year 4, you can expect to see construction. That would really satisfy a lot of the requests that come in. So, and I don't believe this is a manned mission to Mars. I think it's achievable right now, and if we dug down and addressed this. So I've shared this before. Appreciate your attention to this. I'm continue to share it more, and if I don't want to have to call Justin in, but I have to call Justin in if he can be a pit bull. Okay, I'll stop right there. Thank you all. Any members have any questions, comments, or thoughts? Councilman.
I just have a quick shout out to Director Reed, who not only is our budget and finance director, but likes to pick up trash in Towson and joined us for a Towson cleanup last weekend, and him and his son and Brendan, right?
Brendan, yeah, my son told me it was very therapeutic, and he enjoyed it. He spent focused 2.5 hours picking up that trash. He loved the planters.
He worked hard.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So we appreciate you being
We
there.
enjoy that at any other time.
All right, bravo. Any of the members have any additional questions?
Does that mean the 6th District's getting more roads done? With all these It just means they're cleaner
We
than
can
they
send my
were.
son to clean up the 6th
They were
District.
cleaner than they were the Friday before.
So I guess the question is.
I knew that's what it would take. I'd have Mr. Reed and his son in the 7th District every day.
Okay, thank you to your son, Mr. Reed, and thank you to you for making this earth, doing your little bit to make the earth a little cleaner. Any additional questions, comments, or thoughts? Okay, thank you, Ms. Buckler. And our next item is, I'm sorry, Mr. Reed, not Ms. Buckler. That was your item. The next one is Councilman Jones. Uses permitted in bulk regulations in the OT zone.
Okay, I think we have a speaker, but I will be brief. I introduced this bill 77-24, in which I propose some changes to the OT zone limited to the Owings Mills Town Center area. The OT zone was created in 1984 to permit development and employment-intensive office uses and high-density residential in proximity to town centers. Over the past several years, the office market, particularly for suburban office parks, has changed significantly. Office parks in certain parts of Baltimore County have been experiencing high vacancy rates as there is less interest in or need for office space after COVID-19. Instead of allowing these spaces to remain vacant, I propose to broaden the uses allowed in the OT zone in Owings Mills, including adding back the ability to have residential uses in this area. Although the OT zones throughout Baltimore County allow residential uses, in 2009, the council eliminated the ability to have residential uses within the Owings Mills Town Center area. There is no rational reason to leave this restriction in place and to penalize the Owings Mills Town Center with Bill 77-24. I'm proposing to lift this restriction in light of the need for additional housing in the county and to allow the compatibility usage in this area. I am urging my council members to support the bill.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Jones. Do we have any speakers, Ms. Del Castro?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Patricia Malone. Ms. Malone, you may begin your testimony.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Good evening, Chairman and members of the council. Again, my name is Patricia Malone with Venable LLP. I am here to testify in favor of this bill. Councilman Jones gave a very thorough explanation of the bill, so I don't want to take up too much more time, but I think each of the council people experienced this same problem during the comprehensive rezoning process where you had apartment buildings, owners of office parks and owners of office buildings having some vacancy that needed to be filled. So this is one way of potentially allowing some additional uses, particularly in the OT zone where it was supposed to be focused on office and, like Councilman Jones said, high density residential that were supposed to be grouped around town centers. So we appreciate Councilman Jones' support of this legislation, and we would ask the council to support the bill as well.
Thank you, Ms. Malone. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Ms. Malone?
Nope. Thank you, Ms. Malone.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we just have one item left. Two. Okay, sorry. The next item is myself and Councilman Ertel. Okay, so let's see what we have here. This is to change zoning regs for the RO zone, office buildings in the RO zone. So the RO zone was created in 1980 to allow office use on properties where residential use was not feasible because of adjacent commercial or heavy commercial traffic. So since the 1980s, when this RO zone was created, our behavior has changed, Councilman Marks, but the zoning regs have not changed. And so sometimes we have to modify the zoning regs to adjust for 21st century behavior. And so the RO zone says specifically no more than 25% of the total adjusted gross floor area of Class B office space permitted by special exception could contain medical offices. And then it goes on to more detail. So the way our behavior has changed, the office market has changed significantly since 1980, including the onset of the COVID-19 global pandemic and corresponding implementation of technology to facilitate the prevalence of working remotely outside the traditional office setting, which has severely reduced the demand for traditional office space, including those traditionally smaller office settings that often exist in the RO zone. By eliminating the restriction on medical offices and making other changes to potential regulations in the RO zone, the council can broaden the pool of potential tenants that can readily occupy office buildings. Because right now, irrespective of council actions, there is a glut of office space. And we don't have enough users of that office space, so we have to modify and adjust what the zoning regs are. And so thank you, Councilman Ertel, for co-sponsoring. Welcome any additional co-sponsors, and also welcome any comments, questions, or thoughts.
Co-sponsor.
Thank you.
I also co-sponsor.
Okay, we have a lot of harmony on this council. Okay, and we have one other item. This is Councilman Ketch, converted builder show house.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This deals with the historic Cocky House in Cockeysville, which has been for sale for a number of years and no buyers. And it's historic, and you know, when you leave a historic property alone for a number of years, it does go in disrepair. And there is a company which does interior decorating that wants to restore the house, and they want to have showrooms, et cetera. And this bill accommodates them. And now we did meet with and come to agreement with the community because they were concerned about parking, et cetera. So that problem's been resolved, and there's no opposition to this.
Thank you, Councilman Ketch. Any members have any questions, comments? I just have a comment, Councilman Marks.
Please add me as a sponsor.
Okay. And you can also add me as a sponsor, Mr. Secretary, because I wanted to add that I live in a historic home built in 1897, and the neighborhood around me is the houses are all historic. And even when you tend to them, they're very difficult to keep up with. And if you don't tend to them, even if you live in there, it becomes demolition by neglect. And so if no one's in the house, there's only one thing that can happen. It's going to deteriorate. So appreciate you taking measures to restore our great history in Baltimore County.
And the Cocky House, Cockeysville, so you see the connection.
Mr. Boswick, you can add me as a co-sponsor as well.
Okay.
1852.
1852, wow. Well, you better take care of that house.
No, wait.
Chelsea will take care of the house, but I'm worried about you.
That's right.
Wait a minute. Our home was built in 1850.
Ooh, you
beat me.
I got you
Hey.
beat by 2 years.
Wow. We have some old homes.
Wade, were you the original builder?
You know, I was actually there when Abraham Lincoln went to his inauguration on the North Central line, which goes right near where we live. And also I was there with his funeral train that headed to where he was buried. And also when he did the Gettysburg Address, we were there when he took the train to deliver that address. Do you want to know anything else?
We believe you.
We
Councilman
do?
Crandall, you know, a lot of people think it was Eve that gave Adam the apple. It was Wade. And with that, we'll close the meeting.
Wait a second. Are you calling Wade a snake?
Okay, thank you all very
All right,
much.
we're getting all Old Testament here.
Sure did. Sure did.
Kevin Reed, my Powhatan Streets, please. Whatever you can do.
Bradley, I walk out with you.
Kevin, only the third district. Forget
There you
all
go.
the rest.
Who was president in 1852? Do you know who was president?
Was it Buchanan?
It was Fillmore. I think it was Fillmore. I think it was
Oh, was it Miller Fillmore?
one of our greats.
Oh, 1852.
I think it was Fillmore. I looked that up.
Yeah, Buchanan was 56 to 60.
I am the last president of the United States. And this is what is it? He said, "I am the last president of the United States."
Why would he say that?
Civil War.